In the modern psyche, the word surrender often evokes images of white flags, defeat, and the final crushing and shameful collapse of one's will. In other words, it's all about loss and nothing to gain, a stripping away of your dignity, your power, and your autonomy. But the ancients, the mystics, and those who have tasted the eternal nectar of the divine have always whispered another meaning. They knew, and still know, that surrender, especially in spirituality, is not the loss of power but its expansion and transcendence. Far from being a weakness, it is a strategic and radical turning from the illusion of control and plugging into the flow of the infinite, and in so doing, taking advantage of and receiving help from a force greater than yourself. In practical terms, surrender is not an act of giving up. It is an act of giving over, an active, conscious yielding of the personal to the transpersonal. The yielding of the self to the no-self. The yielding of the story to the source. To give up is to be broken by life, signifying a hopelessness and withering retraction. To give over, on the other hand, is to break more fully into life, into a state of surrender that sets you free to actually enjoy life in its more elevating details, free from the need to control every tiny thing around you, free from the energy-sapping hypervigilance of the unawakened state. This sounds like a lofty state of being, so why is it so often avoided by the mass of humanity? By the end of this video, you will understand why a part of you refuses to take this step towards ultimate freedom, and why you must boldly return to and work in tandem with the divine flow. This single decision will reduce your energy investment in life while multiplying your gains and output. You will also understand how to apply this practical wisdom in all spheres of life: the monastery, the kitchen, the boardroom, and even the hospital bed. Stay tuned, because no one has laid it out for you this way before now. Ancient records in all mystical traditions and wisdoms state that the primordial state of man was that of blind trust in divine love and its blueprint. That was until, by a counterintuitive use of free will, man chose to fend for himself by his own wisdom. By that venture, misadventure, or adventure, we sunk into a situation whereby, second-guessing the original plan of divine love, we thrust ourselves under the sway of divine law, its twin counterbalance. We then had to struggle before we ate, watch our backs everywhere we went and every minute of the day, and generally operate under fear rather than faith. In essence, we have been operating cut off from the original blueprint. That anecdotal story, beloved, is the true birth of the ego. A child of continuous blind adaptation honed for crude survival. A lost and fearful and clingy child that has formed and grown in man for millennia, guiding man using half-baked information and hastily drawn-up protective rules aimed at only ensuring man's preservation, but never able to support his actual freedom and thriving. It has helped, yes, but it has also often inadvertently hurt the advancement of man, especially spiritually. The ego, that necessary yet ultimately transitory construct of mind, thrives on the illusion of control, for it has forgotten abundance and operates from a mindset of scarcity and a ruthless economy. Much like its allegorical mirror in the Christian Bible, the prodigal son that wanted independence but later realized the sad reality of dwindling resources in the life he chose. The ego gathers, plans, creates narratives, and constructs scaffolding to hold its version of reality in place, like a child trying to anchor the sea with sandcastles. But life, fluid, mysterious, and unfathomably vast, does not bend to its mental blueprints that are based on limited sight. Sooner or later we all face what the mystics call the limit point, that threshold where personal effort can no longer carry us through. Illness, heartbreak, failure, the death of a dream, each becomes an initiatory portal. In such moments the ego screams, "You must try harder, don't give up!" But the soul whispers gently, "Relax, give over. There is another way, an easier way. I will remind you if you only trust." To give over is not passive. It is the courageous act of bowing, not out of subjugation but recognition of a greater rhythm, a deeper order, a more intelligent current than your own hands can blindly steer itself through. Much like the recognition and respect a sailor has for the wind currents when they decide to align their sails to catch its divine assistance instead of fighting it. Thus, spiritual surrender exists in the liminal space between doing and being. It's really the hinge point between striving and allowing, between resistance and receptivity. To surrender is to unclench, not because you've lost, but because you've seen. But I have seen what, you may ask? Well, that your grasping, however noble, cannot bring you home. That your mastery, however earned, cannot make you whole. That the most productive path forward is not one of fighting against life, but of communion and cooperation with it. That shift in awareness increases the length and breadth of your vision. In the wisdom traditions, this is known as the shift from efforting to entrusting. Surrender is entrusting your breath, your path, your becoming to that which breathed you into being in the first place. In surrender, you move toward the sacred. To give over is to return, to the source, to love, to the ground of being. It is the arc of every true physical and spiritual journey. Even the seed must surrender its shell to sprout. The caterpillar must dissolve its form to emerge as a butterfly. The soul must relinquish its attachments to awaken. No transformation occurs without surrender, not in nature, not in spirit. Know this and know peace. But this surrender is not annihilation, it is offering, not passivity, but participation in a greater wisdom. You are not losing yourself, but releasing the false so that the real may reveal itself through you. Let us now examine the mechanics of giving over. In considering the mechanics of giving over, a spiritually awakened being does not merely use surrender as a last resort. It's not something grudgingly done. Instead, they see it as a new life and they actually live it as a daily orientation. It's not just a one-time event, but a moment-by-moment posture built one action at a time, daily, monthly, yearly, through an entire lifetime. To give over is, in a sense, to shift allegiance from mind to heart, from reaction to receptivity, and from anxiety to trust. It looks like this. 1. Releasing the need to fix the moment, and instead just asking, what is this moment asking of me? 2. Pausing when the impulse to control arises and instead saying, not my will but thine. And 3. Trusting the unfolding even when you do not yet understand the meaning. As you can see, this is not spiritual laziness, it is radical presence, it is radical faith and humility. Let's now count the gains of giving over. Ironically, when you surrender, you do not become less, you become vast. When you give over, you do not disappear, you finally appear not as a fragment clinging to control, but as an open channel of something luminous and whole. Furthermore, you gain clarity, for you are no longer fogged by resistance. You gain peace, for you are no longer in battle with life. You gain power, for your actions now align with the current of divine will. You become, in the words of Rumi, a reed through which the breath of God flows. And that, beloved, is the true fulfillment of human life. This path is not only for monasteries or mountaintops. It is most meaningful in kitchens, in boardrooms, in hospital waiting rooms, and in the painful silence of unanswered prayers. In these places is where surrender becomes the highest yoga. When your child rebels again and your plans dissolve, you give over your fear and respond with grounded love. When the diagnosis comes, you give over your panic and open to the mystery of healing in all its forms. When your partner leaves, you give over the need to control the story and trust that love is not confined to one form. You are not giving up in these moments. You are saying, I offer this to something wiser than my personal understanding. Lead me, use me, teach me. This is mastery, not over others but over self. The ultimate surrender maybe is death. Not just physical death, but also, the death of the separate self. And in this, the enlightened one smiles, because they understand that this is not the end, but really, it's the merging. To live surrendered is, in a way, to die before you die, to let go of the illusion of separation while you're still here in form, so then when that final breath arrives, it's not something to fear, but rather, it's a homecoming. In those moments of overwhelm, repeat this mantra, not out of superstition, but truly as an invocation. I give over this moment to the light. I give over this burden to the one who holds the stars. I give over my plans, my pride, and my pain. I give over my story to become the song. I give over my will to be led by divine wisdom. I give over my fear and let divine love write the next page. Not to lose myself, but to be transfigured. This prayer is not answered with fireworks but with subtle shifts, by the loosening of that tight chest, by the quietening of that frantic mind, with the peace that passeth all understanding. And in that giving over, you will find yourself not emptied but filled, not erased but exalted, not abandoned but embraced. Then, the next step appears. Not always the one you wanted, but always the one you needed. For surrender is not the end of your power. It is the beginning of your freedom. Like and subscribe if you found value in this presentation, and keep on being the earthly ripple of divine love as you remain blessed and renewed on all levels.